So now we'll be going in and we're going to be talking about our contouring and what we do and why we contour and what the purpose serves. So if you don't know what contouring is, I'll give a little recap, a tiny little lesson here, the best I can explain it. Contouring is to accentuate the highlights and the shadows on your face. And contouring can do several things. It can make you look more awake in terms of your highlight. It can make your features more defined. And when your features and your jaw structure and your bone structure is more defined, you tend to look slightly thinner, if that's the look you're going for. Your highlight is what would be placed on your face at the points that the sun would hit your face. So say this light that you guys can't see over here is the sun, and it's coming here and it's hitting my face. Most of the time it's gonna hit my forehead. It's gonna go down my nose, the center. You'll see it at the tip of my nose. Maybe I should turn this way. My forehead down the center, at the tip of my nose. It'll be a little bit at my chin, and the highest point of my face, which is my cheekbones. Your contour color is just the opposite. It's where the shadows would be. So it would be behind sort of the curve of your forehead, so along your hairline. It would be under the line of your cheekbones, and it would be under your jawline. So those are the places that you would see a shadow cast. Your contour sort of goes in a 3. So it'll be here, and it'll be here. If you remember, I said that contour also serves another purpose to make things look slimmer or thinner and give the appearance of a shadow. So there are points in which people tend to contour their nose to make it look slimmer. So if you've got a lighter portion down here, it sort of accentuates that portion of your nose. And then if you put a cooler shade, a darker shade over here, it tends to make your nose look a little bit thinner. Normally what you would highlight with is a concealer that is 1 or 2 shades lighter than your skin tone. You can go a little bit brighter depending on how bright you want your highlight to look. So I do have a darker one, and then one that's maybe like 3 shades lighter than my skin tone. So my darker concealer, which is maybe 1 or 2 shades lighter than my skin tone, is this LA Girl Pro Concealer. It's totally upside down right now, so let's switch that the right way. This LA Girl Pro Conceal. These tend to be the favorites of everyone. These are cheap. They come in a range of colors. They go fairly dark. The color that I use is Fawn. Like a baby deer. Is that a fawn? Yeah. You guys are gonna think I'm a NARS junkie. I am. The other concealer that I love to use is the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer. And this is in the color Caramel. So this is the medium dark 2, and I think my foundation is the medium dark 5, so this is 3 shades lighter than my skin tone. I also really like this concealer because it's very spreadable. The same thing with the LA Girl Pro Concealer. I try to stay away from creamy concealers when I'm doing the concealing on my face, but you'll notice I used a creamy concealer when I was doing my eyebrows. What people tend to do is to bring their concealer under their eyes in a triangle shape. So that's where the highlight would be, in sort of a triangle shape. Try not to go too far back here, just because you're getting into contouring zone here. This is where the shade would be. So you can either make a triangle, a small one, or you can do what I do, and I kind of just draw like this. That's easy enough. Few lines. Make sure you get under your eyes there. And we'll blend this out and we'll continue with the rest. You're gonna take the point of your beauty blender. Take the point and we're gonna pat. We're not gonna drag. Patting gives a better consistency. And I think I forgot to say that too with the end of your beauty blender when you're putting it on. Make sure you're patting, don't drag. Okay? If you don't have any brushes, you can also do this with your fingers. You just have to take a lot more time to blend it out. Make sure your fingers are clean and make sure you're using your ring finger because it is the weakest of all your fingers and you won't damage your under eye area. Your eyes are fragile, you guys. So we're gonna try to stay in that triangle motion when we're blending this. Now I tend to go on top of my eyes anyways, just because, I don't know, I feel like it looks better. But you don't have to. In fact, if you want to go on top of your eyes, you can kind of go with the end, something that's more your foundation color if you'd like. But it helps my eyeshadow show up a little bit. We're gonna do the other side. If you're sort of just looking straight, your under eye is gonna crease, and you want to make sure that you kind of get between those creases. So if you angle your head down and look up a little bit, it helps get into those creases. Okay, we successfully blended our under eyes. So now let's go back in with that same concealer and let's do the other areas that the sun would hit our face. So like I said, that's the forehead. Because you're using a concealer that's lighter than your skin tone, I suggest that you try not to put as much on to begin with, just because it's a lot easier to put more on than it is to take some off. And at this point I'm just dotting, just because, like I said, I'm trying not to put as much on. Because you still have a little bit on here too, so let's blend our chin. Remembering to use patting motions. We can squeeze and go down the center of our nose. And squeeze and do the same thing to avoid our eyebrows, but we're going to get as close as we can so that it doesn't look weird. If you find that you have some harsh lines and you're having a hard time blending it, go ahead and go back in with the other side of your beauty blender to fix those harsh lines. Some people would argue that the Cupid's bow is also a place that the sun would hit. So if you'd like, you can just use whatever's left on your sponge or your brush and sort of put it on your Cupid's bow. So here's what it's like with just your highlight. Excuse my eyelids, I know they're super oily, so everything creases up right away. Which is kind of why I have to make sure I put primer on my eyes, and I'm talking about eyeshadow primer, or set it if I'm not gonna wear eyeshadow. Highlight done. Let's get into contouring. I don't like to do them at the same time, and I also want to mention that I like to do my highlight and contour after I put on my foundation. I know I've already done it, so you're kind of like, well, why are you telling me now? I like to put it on after my foundation because it's important to me that my foundation goes on as the color that it is and that I can control where I put my highlight and my contour. Now if I put that on before and I try to blend it out with my foundation, I'm afraid that my highlight and contour can move places that I don't want it to move because I'm trying to get my foundation on over it. And I feel like I have to end up using a lot more product than I want to, trying to get it to show through my foundation. And when you're using like fuller coverage foundations, then what's the point? Like, so you want to make sure that, well, I like to make sure that I do it after I put on my foundation. So we've got our highlight color on. Now let's go to our contour color. We've got our Bobbi brown. I figured out the secret, you guys. I have to put my hand behind it so it doesn't catch my face. We've got our Bobbi brown foundation stick, and this is in the color Chestnut 9. This is the contour color that I do use because it's only a few shades darker than my skin tone and than my foundation, and I like to have sort of a muted contour when I'm doing my contour, because I also really like to go in with my Anastasia powder contour kit. So So if you would like to cream contour and you're a brown girl like me, I would suggest getting the Stila Contour Kit. That is if you don't want to buy the foundation stick. The foundation stick is a little better than me. But if you're a brown girl and you're having a hard time finding contour colors at Sephora, which I had the most difficult time, I would go and they would like give me like a brown eyeshadow and they would tell me to use that as a contour, and I was like, okay, I mean, and it just looked muddy on my face. It didn't really complement my skin tone. It wasn't really for me. So Stila makes them dark enough for us girls here. It's called the Shape and Shade Custom Contour Duo, and this is in the color Deep. I'm sure there are more by now. I do not know them because I stick to my trusty Bobbi Brown foundation stick, which we're going to use right now. So I like to use the Sephora Pro Angled Blush Brush, which is this that you see right here, which is slightly dirty, but it's okay. Number 49. Typically what I do is I hold my foundation stick and I sort of just rub it on rather than just drawing it on my face, just because I feel like I have a hard time blending that whole line out, and I'll just sit here forever like trying to blend, and it doesn't work. So I'd rather just go in like this, and you can see it shows up, and do that here. And I mean, obviously don't put a lot, because then, you know, the more you put, the harder it is to control the object that you're putting down. So I'm doing that 3 that I mentioned before. And I kind of like this angled blush brush because it helps you find your under your cheekbone. You can feel it as you are doing your contour here. Let's go under so you will see the 3. And this is kind of like this foundation stick. It's a little red for my skin tone, but you'll see that the red kind of works because it works as a contour color. So do you see like that the concealer has collected right in my eyelid right here? It looks crazy. This side of my face, and this is like the half contoured but mostly uncontoured side of my face. So, and if you feel like you put a little too much, feel free to go back with this trusty beauty blender here and blend it out. And up here, you know, just remember where you put your highlight if you feel like you need to blend it a little more. And I wouldn't suggest using any more foundation. I mean, this would have enough on it. So, fix this little problem again. You see? Just, it never fails. Now that we've done the outer contour, we're gonna work on contouring your nose. This is ideally for people who feel like they have a wider nose. If you already have sort of a slim nose and that button nose that people like, I mean, you don't really need to contour your nose, honestly. All noses are beautiful. Sometimes I go out with my nose just like this and I feel perfectly fine with it. Some people like it, and sometimes I do it. Yeah, I tend to do it because sometimes I feel more finished than I do, but I really don't have a problem with my nose. Anywho, I like to use this. It's kind of like a bigger concealer brush. Actually, this is a large shader brush, the E50 from Sigma. But to me, it's more like a nice concealer brush. So I tend to use the side. You'll see that it's sort of angled here for me doing this exact thing. I'm sorry, there are people screaming outside. This is New York. I can't help it. I apologize. And I take that and I put it on the foundation stick. I kind of probably put a little too much there, so I'm going to wipe a little bit off. And I'm going to go along the sides of where I put my highlight color. And if you haven't put foundation on, I mean, if you haven't put eyeshadow on, you can kind of start a little bit under your brow. Use a light hand if you can. Excuse me, I have the hiccups. and kind of take it into the crooks of your nose. I know I keep calling it the crook of your nose. I'm not sure if that's what it's called. About where your nostril starts. And I'm doing the same thing. If you watch my brow routine, you'll know that I would drag out the concealer I placed there. Same thing. I'm just dragging it out. I feel like I'm spitting everywhere. Are you guys seeing that? I hope you're not. I'm sorry if you are. Just know I'm not spitting on you. There's a screen between us. Okay. And if you want that little button nose effect, people tend to make a small line kind of where your nose would turn up a little bit. So you're going to cast a small shadow right there. Alright, and give the slight appearance of an upturned button nose. Button noses are what you like, or what you lack. So we are fully highlighted and contoured. Well, I won't say fully, because what I personally do, and we like to do better, because you'll notice this is sort of a warmer color, and technically your contour kind of is supposed to be more of a cooler color because the shade is cooler rather than warmer. I like to go in with the Anastasia Contour Powder Palette, and I like to use this one and this one, and I like to use both of these tones, mostly more of this one and like a little bit of this one, to contour after I've set my foundation with powder. So that brings us into setting our foundation. Now what I'm doing is I'm going back over those places where my concealer has creased, and that most notably is over your eyes and under your eyes. You want to make sure that your concealer is spread out before you put on your setting powder. And if you don't know what setting powder is, or if you don't know what setting is or baking is, that's what we're going to do right now. Setting slash baking, actually they're not the same thing. Setting is when you put the powder on top of your concealer and then you wipe it right off. And baking would be to leave it for a while so you get more of a flawless, a flawless finish to your makeup. So most of the time I set just because I'm in a rush. I bake when I'm putting on eyeshadow. I set when I'm not. There we go. So there are several setting or baking powders that you can use. It seems that everyone's favorite is the Laura Mercier translucent powder. This is what it looks like. This is a bigger version. They sell a smaller version, a travel version, if you will. I gave that one to my mom, so I don't have it. Or you could use, a lot of brown girls like to use the Ben Nye Luxury Banana Powder. There are a few colors, excuse me, while I gather them. There are a few different types of Ben Nye powders. Banana is not the only shade. If you are darker and you need some different shades, there is Sienna, there is Topaz, there is Beige Suede. I bought these online. I didn't know which color I was going to be. Ugh. And so I decided I needed all of them. And that's what happens when you're me and you don't know. Okay, there you go. So I tend not to use the other ones. I tend only to use banana powder. Okay, what setting does is you've got this creamy concealer on your face, it's under your eyes, it's in all the nooks and crannies, it's everywhere, and you want to make sure that it stays smoothed out. And if you are like me, and if you see all this collection in my eyelids because I'm so oily, it gets in there. And I mean, you can put some primer on. It really just keeps your foundation on, but once you put your concealer on top of your foundation, you're in trouble because there's a lot of cream in there and it's, it's gonna collect. So you can see, let me see, I think you can see I hope you can see. You know, let's get up close. Am I in focus? Okay. You can see that it's collected under my eye. And now that I've touched that, I need to go back in and just fix it under here. You can see that it's collected under my eyes. So what I need to do is put a powder there because the powder is going to set it. Powder takes away oil and it's going to give it a nice smooth finish so that when I do open and blink and all this stuff, my concealer isn't going to crease because this is the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer. Creamy is the word, creamy is going to crease. I tend to use the banana powder more to set just because I feel like it makes my under eye a little bit brighter. I like to put it in this nice little tray and I like to use what most people would use as a foundation brush, but I use it as a setting powder brush. This brush, and this is the Sephora, oh no, just kidding, it's the Sigma F60 brush, which is normally used for foundation, but in Kenya's world it's used for setting. And I like to tap it, tap, tap, knock the excess off, make sure that under here is all nice and spread out because we don't want to set it in the creases, that's not good. And I like to tap, tap, tap. If you notice that it's still in the creases while you're applying powder, you can just drag it out a little bit. Ooh, I got in my eye. Not cute. So you can drag a little bit, but patting is ideal. Okay, I'm about to tear here. I definitely like poked myself in the eye with this. Don't do that. Like it creases up right away, you guys. You see, I have to like, I can't leave it 2 seconds without it just collecting. And I feel like I can't blame the, I just love the concealer so much. I can't blame the concealer. It's me. It's me. We put our NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer over our forehead. We put it down our nose and we put it on our chin. So we're going to set that. And you don't need a crazy amount of this. Okay, we are all set. If you want to go like super crazy with the baking, you can put on a little more. Some people like doing this with their beauty blenders. I find that it tends to like make mine super cakey, and I don't like seeing that, so I don't do it with my beauty blender. I like my beauty blender. I want to keep it from looking cakey. If I'm not gonna look cakey, my beauty blender is not gonna look cakey. So at this moment, if you decide that you are gonna put eyeshadow on, I suggest that you let this sit. This will be your baking. You let it sit, do your eyeshadow, and you come on back. At this moment, I'm gonna go in with my whole face powder because you don't want to just wipe this away and kind of leave it like two-toned. I can't go out like this. This looks crazy. So I'm gonna go in with my MAC Studio Fix foundation, my powder foundation. This is the color NC50. Oh look, I said I didn't know what MAC color it was, but this is NC50, so it should work. And this is what it looks like. I would normally only use my MAC Mineralized Skin Finish, but as you can see, she's dead. I am using the Sigma Large Powder Brush. You guys, just in case you see it, because I know some guys didn't say something, you can see that I had to cut like 2 parts out of my brush because if any of you have ever, if any of you have ever had like one of those vanity lights that get hot, my brush got too close to it one day. One day I was like doing my makeup and I was just like, why is something smoking like that? I just keep seeing smoke and it smelled like burning hair. It was this brush. It was like melting onto my light bulbs there. So I had to switch to some light bulbs that stay cool. So either way, we're gonna go in here and put a little bit, and we're going to first wipe away all of that setting powder that we had and kind of make it all one color because, you know, the whole point was to put dimension back into our face, but we want to tone down the baking powder and tone down a little bit of everything else here. So you can go on top of your eyes if you haven't put on any eyeshadow at this point. We're gonna go on our forehead. A little bit on our neck. Going in with the Anastasia Powder Contour Kit. Hope that is in focus. There we go. I'm going to take the darkest two colors. You should still be able to see the contour lines you had earlier from your cream contour. But if you can't, make a nice fish face and you can see a line. And you just lightly go in there and where you put it before. I just do this to deepen it up a little bit because remember I said my contour color wasn't that dark and it was kind of warm and you sort of want a cool color. Cool color. So hard to talk today. Alright, at this point, if you've already done your eyes and put on your mascara and yada yada, you would put on your blush, you would put on your highlight. Now, I want to explain the difference between the two highlights. There is your concealer highlight, what goes under your eye, and then there's your like the blam highlight. There's your like on bleak highlight. And that's a lot different than what you would use under your eye. So that would sort of also go in the same place that the sun would hit your face, but that highlight is more of a sparkly highlight, and that's more of like a gives you a glowy look. Okay, make sure that when you're done with all of your face and you put your blush and your other highlight on, that you would set with the Urban Decay All Night Setting Spray. You don't necessarily have to set with this one. This is what I use now. I used to use Fix Plus, but I kind of felt like I wasn't sure if it really did much for me. That has concluded our foundation and contouring routine. I hope you continue to watch this series. If you haven't already, please click back and see the previous two videos, and hopefully the next video will be up soon. In the next two videos, we'll be tackling how to do your eyeshadow, how to blend your eyeshadows, do your brow highlight, all of that jazz. If there's something specific you want to see in this series in the future, from what I know, we have like 4 or 5 videos left. We've got eyeshadow, we've got eyeliner, we have false lash application, and we have blush and highlight. Oh, and then we have lip color, so that's 5. Oh yeah, 5 videos. So let me know if there's something that I didn't mention that you do want to see. Other than that, I'll see you in my next video.